What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So today we are going to talk about the top decks, the tier list, moving on into February 2021. There's a lot going on. This Saturday is the DCS2, the LCS10 just completed, so a lot's going on. A lot will continue to go on. Online tournaments are reigning supreme. Like I just mentioned, this Saturday, DCS, you can see it on the screen. There's a link down below. We've been talking about it for a while now. We're going to live stream it, guys, and well, you guys should go play. It's going to be a ton of fun. Lots of really good prizes, lots of really good testing, lots of really good competition. Otherwise, March 9th is our first annual TSP Championship. Like we've been saying, we have playmats, field centers, and cards to give away to people who do not top. But if you make it into the top 4, you are guaranteed a customized commemorative field center, a playmat, and other prizing such as a AA Zeus, an ultimate rare Dengirsu, and cash if our entries exceed the cost of the prize support. And keep in mind, I did not pay retail for this prize support, so there's a very good chance we can top that and add some cash into the pool. So without further ado though, links for both of those tournaments are going to be a lot of fun down in the description below. We're here to talk about the tier list. So we're going to go ahead and throw our tier maker up on the screen now. And as you can see, we're saying there's tier 1. I don't believe in the 0.5 tiers. I think it's the dumbest thing ever. Like, just do 1, 2, 3 rogue. Don't do 1, 1.5, 2 in rogue. Like, just 1, 2, 3 rogue. Done. So our definitions are tier 1 decks are decks that you expect to top in multiples. Tier 2 are decks that you expect to kind of fill in the other spots of top cut. Tier 3 are decks that you don't really expect to, but you're not surprised at all if they do take a top spot. Rogue decks are decks that can compete, but possibly top, but they're not too likely to do so. Some things like favorable matchups, a good pilot, these are some of the things that will factor in for a rogue deck if they can top or if they will not. So we have 20 decks down below. The decks that fall into our rogue category are not necessarily the best rogue decks. These are just rogue decks that we picked to showcase for you guys. And I mean, obviously you could throw in a handful of other decks. The rogue category probably have 20, 30 decks there, you know, if we decide to throw everything in. And that doesn't mean all 20 or 30 are going to top an event, like we said, but there's a lot of rogue decks out there. So starting off first, a deck that kind of came back. I was originally going to put it as tier 3, but unsure on how many people would pick up on it and play with it. We have Emancipator. They use a small Prank Kids engine because, I mean, Meow Meow and Roxy's are both, you know, rocks, earth, so it kind of fits the whole thing. And the fact that they can just like summon a Prank Kid, go Meow Meow, get the rock earth, and they get a Roxy, so now they got another one which is a level 4 and allows rank 4 plays. We did see them do rather well at the LCS10, so I am actually going to move them up where I was originally going to have at tier 3 because I wasn't quite sure on the representation, but they proved, well, over that big tournament that the representation is there, and we will put them as a tier 2 deck. This deck is a deck that, oh man, I don't like playing against it whatsoever, but it's there, it's good in a trap heavy format. You know, what's one of the best trap decks out there? Altergeist. It's not the best trap deck, but it is one of the best trap decks. They're a very strong tier 2 or tier 3 deck. Sorry, they did have a handful of representation as well in the LCS, but I don't think that they are quite on the level of those other decks. I don't really expect Altergeist to top, but I'm not surprised if they do. Buster Bladers. So most of these are like Dragoon Turbo plus the Prologue, Buster Lock, things like that. Deck's really strong, really fun, really consistent, and can do some pretty crazy things. Pairs with Dogmatica very, very well, and I think it's a strong tier 3 deck. So going forward, we actually just dropped our deck profile on it the other day, so go check that out on the channel page if you want to see it. Cyber Dragon. Oh, I wish I could just put them tier 1 best deck ever, but they're just not. The consistency's not there, the representation's not there, and the results, quite frankly, just are not there. We did see the Extravaganza had, I believe he made it I don't remember if it's top 8 or top 16 he made. But then MBT's one online tournament. There's 128 players. Our friend Ali at Alex Yugihoh, go check his channel out, made top 8 with the Trap Dogmatica version of this deck. Our deck profile will be up rather shortly. Yassine just did one recently, but as far as the Trap build, throwing the Dogmatica engine in and taking out Galaxy Soldier, throwing all that mess together, Ali was the first one that I'm aware who did so that was pretty cool. We already had our Dogmatica list and experimented with it in the past, but never in my life did I consider cutting Galaxy Soldier and Machine Dupe. I mean, Dupe we cut a while ago, but Soldier was something we didn't plan on cutting. We did, and the deck is actually really crazy, and I think could be a strong tier 2, tier 3 deck if some people got behind it and played it more. Dinosaurs. So initially I was going to actually drop them down a little bit further, but like I see here and there, and at smaller tournaments the deck's still doing a lot. I just think that the high level players aren't really playing it, but I am reluctantly going to put dinos still in a tier 2 deck. I know I probably shouldn't, because based off definitions, you know, that I just said that I don't really expect dinos to top because the top level player representation really isn't there at the moment, but I'm not surprised at all if they do. So I guess by definition of ours that you see here on the screen, Dinosaurs is a tier 3 deck. Originally, like I said, going to put them as tier 2 because that's how I kind of feel like they fit, but the way the format is, the way people are playing decks, I don't really expect them to top. I just am not surprised at all if they do. Kind of like Emancipator, this deck I was going to have as a tier 3 deck, and I actually had to completely scrub out what I had planned on writing because I had this whole video scripted out, and the LCS changed a couple things, not too much, mostly being these two decks. Dragon Link, I was going to say, is a very, very strong tier 2 deck and is really crazy and consistent and strong, and it does everything it already could do. Like, they really didn't lose a whole lot. They don't get to look at your hand and rip a card, so I mean, they just got a little bit more fair, but the deck is still crazy strong. I just didn't think people were going to be playing it too much, so because of that, I was going to put them as a tier 3 deck and just mention that as soon as people start playing this, they're going to be one of the best tier 2, if not a tier 1 deck. And, well, the LCS spoke a little soon, so I had to scribble out my paragraph I was going to say about them and bump them up, because everything I was going to say against them happened before I could say it. Drytron, moving on. I wasn't really sure which card art to use for this one. I don't think there's any surprise here whatsoever. It's a tier 1 deck. Like Drytron, Virtual World, spoiler alert, are, you know, hands down tier 1. They take up 50% of representation, 50% of top cut. They're the decks that seem to be winning everything. Like Drytron and Virtual World, we already know, like, they're both tier 1. There's no question, there's no debate, there's no hard feelings. Like, are either decks unfair? I don't want to say yeah. We just got out of a pretty toxic format. This format, people are going to complain about every format. There's things I don't like. I mean, VFD is super oppressive. Being able to just abuse all this generic ritual support is very kind of ridiculous and annoying. But as far as, is it toxic? I don't think so. I think these are decks that could, like, deserve to get checked, deserve to get hit, you know, bent into 1 or 0, and VFD gone. Both decks would still be very strong, at least tier 2, if not stay tier 1. Both decks would still be able to do a lot, but, you know, it just kind of checks them. And then something else is going to take their place as a degenerate deck that we complain about, because that's how the game works. Eldritch, so not to throw all three up right in a row, but Eldritch, I think it's a tier 1 deck. We saw the LCS, they had 59, I believe, total play, because they actually split up the Zodiac Eldritch. They put it with the Zodiac representation, but if you added it to the Eldritch one, it was clear-cut the number 3rd represented deck. But not only that, this deck is still really strong. It is the best trap deck. We mentioned Altergeist before, and then Cyber Dragon. Yeah, Cyber Dragon is the 3rd best trap deck in the game right now. Change my mind. But yeah, Eldritch, so it's a really strong deck. It can pair up with Numeron, Dragoon, Invoked, Dogmatica. Like, it can pair up with so many different decks. Trickstars, ask Brock about that. He's been really loving his build. And the deck is just really crazy. We have our Wednesday night locals. Come join Nerd Night Gaming on Facebook if you want to play. We play on EDO Pro to help it go along faster and to just not have any ruling disputes or slow playing or stalling or any of that. So we just run it on EDO Pro, free to play. We throw some prize cards up on the line. Eldritch has won 2 in a row, and if he wins this Wednesday now, yeah, he's going to actually get the prize card because you got to win a couple in a row. And so it's going to be interesting. We're all going to gun for him and take him down. But Eldritch, tier 1 deck. Infernobles. This is a deck I wasn't exactly sure where I was going to go with them. Like, the deck is still kind of like Dragon Link and Adamantipator, really strong and can do a lot of big boards. It did lose, Smoke Grenade was pretty big. Link Cross is pretty big. But the deck is still strong. The deck has big boards. The deck can still play through Disruption to a degree. It's nowhere near it was. And I just think there's too many better combo decks, and that's why it's not going to see a ton of play. But if, say, I heard like, oh, you see Infernobles top that event, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm not surprised. If you said they had topped multiple, then I'd be a little bit surprised. But I think Infernobles tier 3 is a pretty good assessment of them. Here, this covers Invoked Dogmatica more specifically. I mean, Dogmatica. But yeah, we're going to say Invoked Dogmatica. It's still a deck that's been like borderline top 5 for a couple formats now. It's still really, really strong. The Invoked engine's really strong. The Dogmatic engine, really strong. And they pair together very, very nicely. We're going to put them as a tier 2 deck. Mech Knights. This is going to be our next rogue deck because, well, it's a really strong rogue deck. Like, if you know how to play Mech Knights and your opponent doesn't know how to play against Mech Knights, you're probably going to win that game. Being able to shut off like columns from spells, from traps, from monster effects, being able to adjust your Mech Knights all over the board and change columns, the small battle protection from things like Morningstar. Like, the deck is very, very strong, and if piloted well, it can do a lot of really good things. A deck I don't think really anyone is ready for at the moment. I've seen it top a couple like extravaganza things around here or there, smaller ones, different nations, because obviously we are United States based here. But Numeron, I think like most people aren't really playing too much to stop it, especially if you are smart with your Zexal and don't just shotgun it, like, because then you get around like Gamma. Not too many people are playing Impermanence, competitively at least, that is. And yeah, like Ghost Ogre's not really getting played. Them are the 3 main ways to stop it. I mean, I guess Forbidden Droplet is a big one, and that could definitely hurt for sure. So Forbidden Droplet's one of the main things that's going to check it in the format. And I do think Cyframe Gear Gamma is going to see a little bit more play moving forward as well. We have PK Fire, we have Burning Abyss, whether you want to put them together, split them up, even like PK as a whole, splitting up completely from Burning Abyss. I think all 3, PK Fire, Burning Abyss, and, well, just Phantom Knights, are all 3 rogue decks, because, I mean, you don't really expect them to top, which I believe one actually did top the LCS, so that's pretty cool, but you don't expect it. A good pilot, they can. Like, it just happened. That's kind of the point we're pushing across and trying to get you guys to see. So we are going to put that deck, or all 3 of them, if you will, as rogue strategies. Moving forward here, we only have a few more to go. Prank Kids. So we had our deck profile up not too long ago. The deck is really fun. There's so many 1-card combos. It pairs up with whatever you really want to put in it for the most part. There's so many flex spots for hand traps, for going second cards, for tech cards for the format, for power cards. Like, it can do so much, and it's a really strong deck. I think it's a tier 3 deck. I'd not be surprised whatsoever to see it top an event. And this is strictly like Prank Kids, not the small Prank Kids engine in Adamantipator. Salamangreat. I just wanted to throw them in here because I felt like they've been not talked about for quite a while, but a deck that can fit that many hand traps, 1-card OTKs, set up decent boards, like especially in this format that's not just like go first or lose. I think Salamangrate's actually a pretty sneaky rogue deck, and if you're playing it well and your opponent's not quite ready for it, Salamangrate's a deck that can absolutely come into a format and make a little bit of noise. Shaddoll. So, I definitely wasn't going to necessarily put them on here. They are a really strong rogue deck. They had quite a bit of representation at the LCS, and I'm going to leave them as a rogue deck, but I could see them absolutely moving up like tier 3, tier 2, not really. I don't think they'll get up that high. I don't expect them to do a ton, but I could see Shaddolls being a strong tier 3 deck if that's something you're looking to pick up. Pretty much along the same exact lines of Salamangrate. We're not going to repeat it all. Sky Striker, good rogue deck. It's always there. It's got Widow Anchor. It's got so much toolbox. It's got Shark Cannon. It's got Afterburners. It's got Jamming Waves. They can pop their own field spell to get their plays started. Like, the deck's really, really resilient, and the deck is just there. So we have a deck that I have actually seen like gone against it online all the time lately, and I've been seeing a lot of people like talking about it, and well, on YouTube, whether you're watching like DB Grinder or Dilemma. I mean, Dilemma kind of Zephyra, they go hand in hand because he's like the Zephyra guy. But I've been seeing a lot of Zephyra on Dueling Book, on EDO Pro even, and just in general, I've seen a ton of Zephyra, and I think they're a rogue deck that everybody should be looking out for. And they actually play and pair up with Numeron really, really well as well. Not so much speaking the Eldritch version, because I think Eldritch Zodiac is probably one of the better Eldritch versions, so that's a tier 1 deck, but just Zodiac in general, Zodiac paired up with anything else, with everything else, I still think it's a strong deck on its own. I mean, AA Zeus really helps push it. Dryden's still a strong card. I wouldn't be surprised if Broad Bull comes back to 1 on the next ban list either, but Zodiac is going to be the final deck we mentioned. It is going to be the final tier 2 deck as well. So here we go. What decks do you think we left out? What decks are tier 1, 2, and 3 per these definitions that we got wrong, that we left out, or that we just, or did we get them all right? As far as rogue decks, I mean, go ahead, let us know in the comment section down below what rogue decks we didn't put up here. But like I said, there's so many viable rogue decks. We can't put them, I mean, we could put them all, but I don't want the video to be half an hour long. So if we didn't put a rogue deck on here, I'm sorry we didn't get it. Comment it down below and maybe we'll throw it up in the next one. But, for now, these are the rogue decks that we decided to go with for this video. Again, let us know, tier 1, 2, 3, what did we get wrong? Rogue decks, I guess just give us your opinion. Take care, guys, and see you next time.